So welcome. We're going to talk about exercises for a thyroid body type. A couple things you need to know. Usually, a thyroid problem is related to autoimmune. In fact, 90% of all hypothyroid conditions are autoimmune. So it's really not a thyroid problem per se. It's affecting the thyroid. It's an immune problem, which could have started in your gut. It could have started with the adrenals being overstressed. So you really want to think about possibly when you started to develop this and what triggered it. Was it a stress event? Was there some digestion trigger to this? And get clues, because you may benefit more doing exercises tailor-made to the adrenal, which is more stress, low intensity. So we'll cover a little bit of that right now, but a lot of times people have a mixed body type and you have to play around with this, and some of the stuff might not apply. So it's not a perfect science, and that's why you have the flexibility of trying different things to see what works for you. But this is some general guidelines. So I already mentioned this. It could be adrenal, or it could be the immune system, which could relate to a weakened adrenal system. Also, it's very rare to have a primary thyroid problem. It's usually secondary to high levels of estrogen. They call it estrogen dominance, okay? In which case you have to address the ovary, or it could be a problem with the liver, a fatty liver, cirrhosis in the liver, hepatitis, you had your gallbladder out, some congestion with the gallbladder, because you need the liver to convert 80% of the thyroid hormone. So T4 converts to T3, the active form, through the liver. And the other 20% is through the kidney. So if there's a gallbladder problem or a removal, then you may want to use the exercise that's tailor-made to the liver body type. So you have to really think with this. If your thyroid is truly dysfunctional, what you're going to have is a problem with your mitochondria. Those are the things that generate your metabolism. And the thyroid hormones directly control how many mitochondria you have. So if your thyroid is low, you're going to have a deficiency of mitochondria. It just so happens that exercise will stimulate the number of mitochondria. So exercise is very, very good for the thyroid body type. And you'd want to do a whole body workout versus specific like to your arms or legs. You can do that, but you don't want to ignore working your whole body, okay? And try to recruit as many muscles as possible. Now here's some examples of what I'm talking about. Let's say you're doing an aerobic class. It's kind of like a dance class or an exercise class. That would be very, very good for the working the entire body. Hiking, that would be very therapeutic. Biking will work certain parts of your body. And then sports is the ideal situation right here. Dancing is it's not a light thing. It could be very major, but it really depends on what type of dance you're going to do. And then you have the machine type weights, which is fine. The key is just getting the whole body involved because we want to stimulate these mitochondria systemically all over. Now, this is very important because, like I said before, what if there's an adrenal involvement? And if there's an adrenal involvement, you want to make sure that you don't overtrain. So there's this point about recovery. It's one of the factors in figuring out your exercise, because if you were to check your pulse rate at rest, let's say it's 70, okay? And then you do a 1-minute exercise, you check your pulse rate, let's say it goes to 120, okay? And then you wait 1 minute and you recheck your pulse rate. Let's say it comes down to 110. And then you wait 2 minutes to check your pulse rate. Or just let me clarify, you just wait another minute and check your pulse rate. You're not going to check it in 2 minutes from now. You're just going to check every minute until your pulse rate comes down to 70. So let's say this comes down to 90 and then this comes down to 70. Then you're good. Let's say it doesn't come down to 70. Well, then keep checking each minute until it comes down to 70. That will determine your general recovery rate. Ideally, if you're really, really healthy, a 1-minute exercise after a 1-minute rest, it should come down to 70. So if it comes down to 70 right here, then you know your recovery is really, really good and you can handle a lot more exercise. But if you're waiting 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 minutes from a 1-minute workout, then you know you better start off very, very light because we want to make sure that you don't overtrain. Now, the total exercise that I would recommend generally is between 25 minutes and 40 minutes for the whole workout. Now, you're going to be resting in between there, but the point is this is a really good general idea of how long you should go. Now, the intensity is really determined by your recovery and how much energy you have. And so it's a judgment call. So if the recovery is terrible, just cut it back a little bit. And the frequency of how many times per week, it really depends on your age and your recovery. So if your recovery is really good and you're fairly young, you can do 3 times a week. If it's not, do twice a week. If it's really bad, work out once a week. I had this guy come in, not losing weight at all. All I did is I reduced his exercise down to 1 time a week from daily, and that was the time that he started losing weight. Very interesting. So when you're exercising, you're adding stress, okay? And then what happens, you're going to stop. And so there's a certain level of intensity, and the more intense, you're going to stimulate growth hormone. But the longer you go with your exercise, the duration of the time of exercise, you'll start increasing cortisol. This is the stress hormone. So it's really a balance of how long you go and how hard you go, which I like to just use the recovery to figure these out. So recovery is good. You can handle the intensity. You can handle this. But just realize if you go too long, the cortisol will nullify the growth hormone. The goal is to increase growth hormone, which is the main fat-burning hormone. And the way that you know that you do it right is that the next day, you want to be sore, but the next 2 or 3 days, you're actually recovering and you're feeling good. You have energy. You're sleeping better. You're seeing change. That means it's working. If you're not seeing change, try cutting it back, doing a little less intense workouts and less duration and more recovery. All right, your next step is to find a series of exercises that you enjoy, that you would do, and start to apply this information to those exercises. So click down below and find the exercise that works for you.